Well, welcome to the week of the summer solstice here in the northeast of England. It is the absolutely most perfect evening to be able to show you around the kitchen garden and all of the changes that we've been making to it throughout the first half of this year. It's changed quite dramatically. I think this is the first tour that we've done this year, actually. We've been doing weekly vlogs showing all of the progress that we've made, but this is the first one where we're putting it all together now. And I thought it was absolutely perfect to start it next to this beautiful clematis, or clematis as some people say, to enjoy it while it's in full flower before we don't see it again. If you're only here for the kitchen garden tours, first of all, welcome. The reason I'm saying that is because we do a whole host of other videos to do with our small holding, which is where my husband and I and our two children live in the northeast of England. We've lived here for about 8 years now. Well, not about, it's 8.5 years for definite. And we've been improving on the vegetable plot ever since we moved in. When we first moved in, it was a lot smaller than what it is now. And we have tried multiple different ways of extending it over the years that haven't worked. We tried increasing the size by adding another area that was in a different location to this plot, but still on our property. That didn't work. We've talked about having different polytunnels and we've had different ideas. None of them have worked until this year when we've finally extended it, and we are super happy with how it's working out. We'll start off in the area that when we moved into this property was already the vegetable plot. The previous occupant had obviously enjoyed growing their own vegetables but hadn't grown anything by the looks of it for quite a few years before we moved in. So we were already off to a good start when we moved here. There were a number of raised beds, some of which needed a little bit of TLC because they were starting to rot, some of which were absolutely perfect, and there was a couple of perennial plants, meaning that they came back every year, that he left behind too. So this is the area that we're looking at now, and it looked nothing like this. The plants that were left behind when we moved here were these rhubarb plants. They have come back every single year since and are absolutely fantastic. They give us a fantastic harvest, and as we come into the middle of June, they are still throwing off lots and lots of new growth. So although many people stop harvesting their rhubarb in June or towards the end of June, we'll still get another good few pickings off this. Turn to the right. Everything on this side and this side is what we first bought when we moved here, or came with us when we moved here. Next to the rhubarb is another perennial, so there's black currants, red currants and white currants. There's also a mixture of autumn and summer fruiting raspberries. These are prolific, absolutely fantastic. And then there's gooseberry bushes as well. There's only 4 in here at the moment. I did try and add some more because I thought, it looks a little bit sparse. Of course, the gooseberry bushes took over and we ended up moving those into different locations. But you can even see the first of the raspberries are starting to come. Can you see in the distance there? Looking absolutely fantastic. So all of these fruit bushes, fruit plants, rhubarb, we were very lucky that they were already in and already fully established when we moved in. Now, I often get asked, what do we do to get the rhubarb to grow so prolific? And I have to be honest with you, we don't do anything except add a good layer of compost and mulch, or, well, our mulch is rotted down animal manure, essentially. We've got animals here on the small holding. We add all of their muck to a compost heap. We also have our own compost bins, which we'll come to shortly, but we don't use those compost bins for mulch. We literally use the animal bedding once it's rotted down. So we give it a good, once a year, really thick layer of the mulch, and that's all we do. We don't do anything else. We also, in here, use the non-rotted down. You can see that just there. Sheep and goat bedding, because that's actually classed as a cold manure, whereas horse manure, for example, is a hot manure and that will end up burning the plants. But we're really lucky that we've got the sheep and goat bedding as well, and that's a cold manure that we can literally put on. That goes on, I mean, some years we've had it where it's literally been knee deep, and this suppresses the weeds, because one thing we have a real problem with here, and in abundance, are the weeds. I mean, you can see that's not a gooseberry, is it? So over the years, one of the problems that we've had, as I say, has been the weeds, and trying to stay on top of the weeds ends up taking time away from maintaining the plants and looking after the plants, getting seeds sown, harvesting, preserving, getting the next lot of crops in, because you're so busy trying to stay on top of the weeds. And I kid you not, it has been a real problem for us, you know, to the point where we felt as though we weren't going to be able to do it a few times. So that's also played into the different changes that we've made. We considered going for in-ground beds in a different place on the property. I'm really pleased that we didn't end up doing this, because, as I say, the raised bed approach, which we'll have a walk around shortly, has really worked. So continuing in the original plot, this bed behind me, up until recently, had 2 huge box hedges all the way along this line here and all the way along there. It was only a couple of weekends ago that Stephen actually removed those. That was a real big effort. Don't worry, there are tons of other hedges and plants and all kinds of bushes and things that animals can use for protection and for pollination and all those good things. So by taking those out, we made sure that there was nothing actually nesting in them when we took them out. So there was no concerns there. But this bed was used by the previous owner as a fire pit bed, and he had goodness knows what burning in here. And I have to be honest, when we first moved in, we did the same, because it was literally mounds of materials that had been burned, ash and things like that. I don't think it was anything chemically or anything dangerous, at least I hope not. Since then, we've turned that back into a growing bed for us, and I'm absolutely thrilled with the difference that taking those hedges out has made. So let's turn around and have a look what's actually in this bed. So these are some pretty sad looking brassicas, I have to be honest with you. We've got celery in the first row here, and then all different things. I've got kohlrabi, I've got kale, calabrese, cauliflower, lots of different brassicas. Oh, that's a big kohlrabi growing here. A volunteer potato, which I've left in. There's a tray of plants there. They were the seedlings that, if any of these died off, would replace. And you can see, if we're going over here, some of these have been attacked by slugs and snails. What a year we're having with the slugs and snails, aren't we? It's been a bit of a nightmare. Now, this pallet construction at the back here was, as of last year, we used that as a compost bay. So we just filled it with all of our, veggie scraps and things out of the garden, the weeds, etc., etc. And then we've taken that out this year. We were going to remove the pallets, and then I said, oh, we can grow some things up them. So the sweet peas growing, and as you can see, due to the crazy weather that we've had this year, some are doing better than others. Along here have been attacked by, again, the slugs, the snails, the wind, the rain. It's had everything. So every little pop of colour that we get, I'm very grateful for. And recently, what I've added in here, I've also put some squash in here that I'm going to try and climb up all around the pallets too. We've got some different varieties. There's a golden nugget there that I can see. Uchikuri, I can never remember how you say that. And there's a few different ones. There's also some courgettes that I've put in, and hopefully we'll get some nice courgettes there. Usually they're quite prolific, aren't they, the courgettes, but goodness knows with this year. Anyway, let's go and have a look around the rest of the plot now that I've shown you the basics of what we inherited and what changes we've made. Let's go back to the beginning and start from there. So naturally, being a small holding, we've had to add a gate onto here just to stop any escapee livestock coming in, which has happened, trust me. We have lost so many things to livestock. When we moved in here, all of this was grass. We have created these large raised beds. I can't remember, these are basically half-cut poles that Stephen used to create these. I think it's given it a fantastic finish. These have been in for years now and are looking really well. They're not rotting, so that's been a really good investment. Now, in this first bed here, these are strawberries along the outside. We let the runners just add more strawberries each year. And this is the first year that I've added these canes to create the teepee effect. So in there we have got squash, butternut squash that I'm going to try, and hopefully they'll grow up and around the teepees. And I've also got climbing beans in there. I've got a lot of different variety of climbing beans. There's borlotti in the far one, and in this one I can't remember if this is Trail of Tears or no, it's the lima beans. The lima beans were sown, all the beans actually were sown on the 1st of May. Again, with the crazy year that we've been having, haven't been sure on what to sow when, to be quite honest. I've also got 4 squash. There's 1 in each corner. Those are going to trail all around. Obviously, these ones are going to climb. The rest are going to trail. Fingers crossed it's not going to be too crowded. Now, in this bed here, there were 3 rows of 4 bush squash. So basically they look like a courgette plant, but they are a winter squash. These are called the baked potato squash. If you've been here before, you'll have heard me rave about them. I absolutely love them. They were fantastic last year. One of my favourite squash that I've grown. Unfortunately, I seem to have lost 2. Well, there's one here which is just not coming along very well, and there's one here which seems to have given up and gone. It is true when they say that there's a weak plant that the snails and the slugs will find them, and they have. So hopefully these will all come good. There's a little bit of weeding needs doing in this bed. We will get to that. But I'm going to replace these probably with 2 spare courgette plants that I've got. I'll just plant them next to them. And then if these do come, I would prefer the squash over the courgette. If they don't, then hopefully the courgette plant will come. Can you see the line here? Everything on this side got weeded more recently than this side. Can you tell? Now, these are my experiment of outdoor peppers this year. So here in the northeast of England, we're not the hottest. Well, this year, again, every year seems to be a little bit different these days. But we certainly don't have long, prolonged temperatures. We do get some decent temperatures at some point, but it's not for a long time. So I thought, let's try and see a 10-hour chance with growing peppers outside and see if we can actually get some to grow and ripen. They're definitely growing. If I take you over, these are Orange Horizon variety, but they're already suffering with holes. I think that's, see, that's gone all the way through, so there's just no point in leaving that fruit on, because that's just gonna, it's not gonna grow well, is it? You can see inside. That's a real shame. So that's the concern, that might happen to the ones outside, but I'll take you in the greenhouse at the end and show you the ones that I've got inside the greenhouse. You can see them just from here, and we'll have a little chat about those. I've also got some cheeky little few in this cold frame here too, because I really fancied going big on peppers this year. So we've got peppers, squash and beans. That's what we're going big on in 2024, hopefully. Anyway, let's see what actually happens. I've just seen a big problem. Okay, so these are my sucrine de berry squash, which have now been eaten. So there's 4. That one's alive. That one has been completely eaten. And that one's alive. In fact, we've caught it in the act. Look, oh my goodness, look at that. Literally getting demolished as we speak. Right, I've got all those little you know what's off there, but look, they've left a big hole in that. That's not going to survive either. Oh, and this one. Bloomin' heck. Well, that just sums up this year for a lot of gardeners, doesn't it? So I've lost one of the Long Island cheese there, and probably all 4 of the sucrine de berry. I may try and sow some more of those seeds, but we'll see. Anyway, these other Long Island cheese seem to be doing okay. The concern obviously is though, so these are all the same squash, trailing squash. The concern obviously is though that whatever is eating those is going to make the way down and eat the rest of these. The idea of this pallet there was that they would grow up the pallet, trail over it, and leaving the rest of this for space for other things to grow too. But that's a real disappointment, that, but such is gardening, isn't it? Now I do have things such as the I've got diatomaceous earth, crushed up eggshells, all of those things, and I found that when I've used things in the past preventatively, it's almost put it out there like a big sign saying slugs over here, come and eat everything. So I did say on a previous video I'm not going to use anything until sorry, I've just spotted something else. I'm not going to use anything until there's the first signs of them, and obviously that's like literally overnight that's happened. So I think I now need to crack out the defense mechanisms. This was what distracted me. This had slugs in it here, and it looks as though that's going to be a goner as well. I've got rid of all of those slugs, but look, they're everywhere. That is a real shame, and you know, when you're trying to grow all of your own food to be self-sufficient, that's a knock that you can do without. So I think that I will be finding those seeds again, seeing what I've got left. I did only have a couple of these sucrine to berry. Where are we now? Middle of June. I could possibly get some of the smaller ones, as long as I don't do any big ones that are going to take ages to ripen. Hopefully all of these will be okay. I'll see what I can do. I mean, as I say, I've got some spare courgette plants, but who wants to live on courgette plants over the winter? That would have been fantastic. But anyway, moving on, let's cheer ourselves up with these beauties. These are another winter staple here, obviously. Potatoes. We have got some that have been flowering already. These probably went in a bit later than a lot of other people's, just because of where we're located in the northeast. The ones that are flowering are the earlies. Then I've got main crops as well. There is actually a pathway in between these, but they are, hopefully, as I was joking on another video, hopefully they're not all fur coat and no you know what. Hopefully they've got a lot of underneath as well. I didn't quite know how to say that. Anyway, 2 beds of potatoes, and I think there are 5 rows of potatoes all the way down, and there's about 30 seed potatoes. If we come to the side, you'll be able to see there's about 30 seed potatoes all the way down there as well. So that should give us a really good harvest of potatoes this year. Obviously, I'll do all that on camera and show you guys what we've got going on there. But more importantly, they are the first beds that I'm showing you of the new area. So this area in front of me here, which you can't really see because of the potatoes, is the first bit of the extension to the veg plot that Stephen and I did, where you can see those canes sticking up. That is the original veg plot, which we will go in just now. But I wanted to show you all of this because this is brand new. And if you've been here before for the kitchen garden videos, you won't have seen these beds. So let's just go back up to the original entrance. You can see where the new bit is. So the new bit's this grey bit. The old bit is that kind of beigey coloured. The original gate's just to the left of that spade, and in this first bed here we have got onions and shallots. These were all from onion sets, if I remember rightly. To the right we have got this bed here, which I'm using the slug collars on. So I'm just thinking to myself, I'm going to go and grab some of those slug collars because I've got some spare and put them on what I've got left in that bed over there. I'm going to do that before I go in tonight. Then I've also got another TP. You'll see that that's a theme all over the place this year, with lots of different beans. They're all climbing beans, obviously. So these beans here are, is it Good Mother Stallard? Is that how you pronounce it? I can't quite remember. There's a couple of different varieties. I think there's Borlottis on the other side as well. I've got Greek Gigantes that are actually looking really good. I'm pleased. Don't anything eat those. They're climbing up this frame that I've tried to erect. I'm going to put some more canes across as well because these guys are reaching for the skies already. And then I'm hoping that they'll go across the top of this little structure that I've created here. We will see. It looks a little bit rickety because I did it and not Stephen, but hey ho. And then I've got a different variety of beans on this side, which I'll tell you what they are in a minute because I can't remember in the tags over there. And also the same going all the way around here. I've got more squash. These are the larger squash varieties that will just trail across the floor. Let's just have a quick reminder of what these beans are. Succotash is the name of those beans. I've never grown those before, so we'll see how they turn out. And then different varieties of squash, spare beans here obviously to go in. Or the red onion squash. I am really excited about these ones. These will grow into kind of about the size of what would fit in the palm of your hand, and they will get cooked individually as kind of soup bowls, and then you basically eat them from the inside. That sounds really cruel, but that's what I'm looking forward to. Really looking forward to cooking with those. So squash and beans, as I say, hopefully we're going to get some this year. So this area here is the first bit of the extension that we did just to get your bearings. Now, when we first moved here, we bought a whole load of different trees that were probably not suitable for outside in the northeast of England. Probably, definitely. We got all kinds of apricots and almonds and things like that. And whilst we have had one or two fruits off them over the years, one or two is definitely not going to sustain us. One tree that we did buy, this was from Aldi, believe it or not, is this cherry tree. It's not ornamental, it's edible. That is absolutely fantastic. So that was a really good buy. But the area that I'm standing in at the moment is where we put all of those almond and apricot and different trees like that. And it just didn't work out. And that's why we decided to take them all out. Some of them, there was some apple and pear trees in there as well that we have managed to save. I'll show you those as we're going around. But unfortunately, the apricot and the almonds just worked. We couldn't salvage them. We dug them out, and then we have replaced all of those trees with those vegetable beds there. Absolutely fantastic. Thrilled to bits with that. But in addition to that, we've also done this bit here, which I'm going to show you now. So, our little secret garden. These beds here are made out of timber that we got free off Marketplace. And at the minute, as you can see, this is still a kind of a work in progress area because it's got the ground membrane down, which we do intend to cover in time. We just can't decide what we're going to cover it with. But that doesn't matter for growing this year because we've still got the beds. They're still growing. They're already full. Well, apart from one, which we'll get to in a minute. This one here, you can see leeks. There's two varieties of leeks in here. There's the Elephant, E-L-E-F-A-N-T. I always feel like I need to spell that out in case people think that I can't say the word elephant properly. And there's the Cairngorm, which is an F1, I think, off the top of my head. Anyway, they are looking absolutely fantastic. And then in this bed here, we had a little bit of a dilemma as to whether or not to put sweet corn in here. Not because of the suitability of where the bed is, but because of what's underneath that compost. That has got a whole base of goat bedding, which is not a very dense bedding. So I was a little bit worried that the sweet corn wouldn't be able to root into that very well and they might topple over. In the end, we went with it because the other alternative was where those brassicas are that I showed you in the original fire pit bed. And I'd kind of already decided to put all of those brassicas in. So fingers crossed that they work okay. Behind that is a blackcurrant bush that I took a cutting from. Never had that work before because I'd never known what I was doing. Give it another go, and that one has rooted perfectly. We're a couple of years on now and it's looking fantastic. It is in a more shaded area, obviously underneath these trees and where the fence is, etc. But to be quite honest, anything that we get will be a bonus. So thrilled with that. And then here we have got a lovage plant. It's supposed to be something that you can use a replacement for celery, which we don't particularly like, and lovage is a lot stronger than celery in our experience anyway, so we can take it or leave it with that one. But to be honest, it's nice, an extra nice bit of green, so you know, no complaints really. Here is a fantastic pear tree. We put this one in. That was another Aldi buy as well. So that pear tree, this cherry tree, and then this pear tree over here were all from Aldi, if I remember rightly, and they've done really well. We hope to get quite a few fruits on this year. I can't see any off the top of my head, but very early in the season for that one. I will show you where we've got some apples coming along as well. These were the trees that we've rescued, that we dug out from from the area behind me. Just get back on the path. In this little bed here, we have got beetroot, and I think I've decided the bed here, which is empty, I think I'm going to sow more beetroot in that one as well, because we absolutely love beetroot, roasted beetroot. This is another, if I remember rightly, oh no, when we extended, we purchased a couple of fruit trees, and so this is the Victoria plum tree, because unfortunately we had a plum tree in the distance on the other side of this fence, and one year we had literally buckets and buckets and buckets of plums off it. The next year it just dropped down dead. It completely, I don't know why, but anyway, so hopefully this will give us some plums and go a little way to replacing that. Over here, this is another one that we've purchased as well. This is a Discovery apple tree, because the Discovery apples we have found we absolutely love. Nice early variety for here in the northeast too. And then we've got a few more apple trees that we're not going to get anything off them this year, but the fact that they're still alive is all that matters, because unfortunately we did lose this one when we moved. You can see it's got canker, and I think it just wasn't happy with the move. So unfortunately that one's gone the distance. But there's a couple here that are looking really good with lots of apples on. And there's also one behind this Wendy house, or shed, whatever you want to call it. We put this here after we put that tree there. The intention wasn't to put that here, and then, you know, these things happen as plans change. This is a josterberry, which also got moved, and there's a few little fruits on it, but I think you can also see that on this side it's really not happy on this side, but I think that was more in the shadows previously, so we're just going to leave it be for this year. And then there's a chokeberry, which is actually coming on really nicely. These will be ready to harvest soon. I'll be able to sit in my chair and harvest them. Haven't had a chance to use those yet, because in previous years the birds have got them, so hopefully we'll be able to gather a few of those and get them used for something nice. I'll do a little bit of research. If you've got any suggestions, please do let me know. Oops, they don't look quite ready yet. Still a little bit of colouring up to come on, I think. But yeah, really happy with those. Now this bed here, can you see what it is? Can you guess what it is yet? They are our main crop carrots. These carrots will be, hopefully they'll just stay in the ground until we're ready to use them. This mesh is because we are very prone to carrot root fly here. They've destroyed a lot of our main crop carrots in the past. Hopefully we've got this on early enough so that there's no carrot root flies going to get in. I've got no intention of taking that mesh off until we're ready to harvest, and then we'll just have to see how we get on. Look at our, this tree has got a homemade, you can't really see and I can't reach it. It's got a homemade bird feeder on it, but the tree has decided that it wants to come back It's claiming it back, just like a few of them. You can see that we did chop a lot of these down to be able to create this area, because some of them were just taking over far too much. They were as dense as this here, and we just weren't able to utilise the area without doing it. But thankfully, we're still able to see a little bit of greenery or a little bit of colour off them. Now, if I go beyond, I'll leave all this in instead of trying to edit it out. But if we go around here, this is a mulberry plant that I got 3 years ago for a birthday. I don't think we've had a single mulberry off it yet, but when it came, it was just a tiny little cedar sapling. So very happy with how that's doing. I think that's quite happy in the ground there. Right, now if we turn around here, we can talk about something else that we've learned, is the compost bays. I did not appreciate how much making your own compost will save you when we first moved in. Compost, especially now, since you know what that happened 4 years ago, whatever it was, has shot up in price. And the amount that you'll need if you're starting off your own seedlings, if you're growing in pots or doing any container growing or anything like that, you know, it's not insurmountable. There's a lot of pennies that could be spent there. So Stephen has created these 4 compost bays. And what we're doing, that was actually full. It was overflowing just the other day, and that just keeps shrinking back down. It's amazing how much, you know, the worms and everything that's in there just keeps eating it and doing their thing. And then hopefully we'll have some lovely compost for the autumn. As I say, we don't use the homemade compost from this style of compost as a mulch on the beds, in terms of to make as a weed suppressant for the rhubarb and the currants and things. We use this for the beds where we're going to be planting into with the new crops that are going in. The horse muck is what we'll also use as a cover for all of the beds. Some of them need it more than others. Now, over here is our tea/herb bed. The apple mint wants it to be a full apple mint bed. As always with any variety of mint. The apple mint, I love that. It's a much mellower, it's a lovely taste and smell, which, you know, if I could recommend one of the mints, it would be that. Some of the other ones, spearmint, I'm just not keen on it. Peppermint, not keen at all. But yeah, traditional mint and apple mint are the varieties that I really enjoy. We will be harvesting. I've actually got a day off on Friday purely to get on top of certain things like this. We're going to be harvesting this, drying them, making different jellies and things like that with them. I use it a lot in herbal teas. That's an oregano bush over there that I think it's had a cat sat in the middle of it or something, because it's got a big hole in the middle. But anyway, we'll be getting on top of all of the herbs that are in this bed, so that allows the borlotti beans that are at the back there, and there's Trail of Tears beans in here as well. Now, unfortunately, I've just noticed there's a bit of a kink in my sunflower, but hopefully that's going to be okay. My daughter grew that for me, so hopefully it will. Self-seeded nasturtium, self-seeded borage, geranium, pelargonium there, cosmos, what's this, dahlia. So they were bought as plants from the nursery. This little bay tree here started off absolutely tiny. It's thriving. I should probably do something to it, but I didn't expect it to survive. And it's not only survived, it's thriving. So I will certainly be, we use them all the time for cooking, but I'll certainly be maybe trying to tidy it up. I'm not too sure what to do with bay trees, to be honest. In the background there, we've also got chamomile, which is the same as a lot of things in this bed, used for herbal teas. Really enjoy that. Love this bed. It's such a happy bed. So if you get your bearings back to where the currants, the raspberries, the gooseberries are, this rhubarb here, you'd think we had enough rhubarb. We do, to be quite honest. I just bought more rhubarb because it's one of the easiest things to grow, supposedly, and I really love it. So this is one that we bought. It's an early variety. I think it's Timothy, and we put that in. In this bed here, we've also got, how many is there? There's 5-10 red cabbage, I think, in there. So those will be for winter harvesting. And then if we go to the back, another A-frame with some calendula or marigolds. And I've also put some peas in here. There's red carlin peas and there's black carlin peas. And I'm hesitating because I've just noticed some of them are germinating on the black carlin side, so fingers crossed. I've never grown those before, so I'll be interested to see how they work out. And that board there is to stop this hedge encroaching on the A-frame, because as you can see, it's kind of growing out a bit. We do have plans for this hedge which will go the distance like the other hedges as well, and just create us a little bit more space, but that's what that board's there for, to just kind of push it back a little bit. So next to that rhubarb bed, I have got potatoes, more potatoes. I can't remember if I said that was the only 2 beds over there that where we've just come from. If I did say that, my apologies, because we have this bed here as well. And the reason I'd forgotten about it is because I didn't know what to do with this bed, if I'm quite honest with you. It's a bit of a nemesis bed. Similar to this one in a way, the soil that's in there is just not very nice. It's full of stones, rocks, whatever you want to call them. It's just not nice to work with at all. It's quite clay. So we have amended it as much as we can over the years, but the problem is it's now kind of over the top of the beds, the side of the beds. So I got to the point where I just didn't know what to grow in there, and I thought, right, I'm going to shove some potatoes in, see how they get on. I have used grass clippings, can you see? Just to mulch around them. So it's kind of, you know, hopefully we will get something. You're not going to get nothing, but fingers crossed that we'll get a decent harvest from them. And then we need to figure something else out for this bed next year. I'm wondering whether we double it in height. But then, anyway, we shall see. Next to that bed, we've got the next bed on the list to be weeded, actually. Stephen and I were just talking about this because it's the strawberry bed. And look, we've got some red strawberries coming. I'm not going to take one. And I'll be here all night munching on them otherwise. But you can see there's thistles and things growing in them. So that is the next thing on the to-do list for the kitchen garden. Stephen and I will be out here weeding all of this, and then he's also just created this frame for which we've just bought a net actually to go over the top, because we will be getting the blackbirds and everything else in. And it's not that we don't like sharing, but last year we barely got any strawberries because we didn't cover them. So that's a priority to get that done. Now at the back here, this is lemon balm, which just like the mint, comes back year after year, and it's actually looking really healthy, which you would expect. And that's just taken over, which you'd also expect. This is really good in herbal teas as well. Really, really good for you. Now, every time I do one of these, I forget the name of this. This isn't a globe artichoke. It's off the Victorian kitchen garden, and you guys are going to tell me what it is. I can't remember. I apologise. But this was purely for the looks. You know, it's very, very distinguished, isn't it? So just one at the back there. Now we're back to the asparagus bed, which you can see some of that is ready to be harvested. We've just eaten some actually for our evening meal tonight. It was lovely. So the next job of the strawberry bed, once we've got that done, it's turning our attentions to this bed. It's a bit unloved. It's dropping to bits. So this is obviously, we're in the area that was the original vegetable plot. We've had no maintenance done on this bed here, as you can see. It's got holes in where it's rotting. Stephen will probably replace all of that rotten wood. What I need to do is get in here. We have got some dreadfully thick stems on some of these onions, which have obviously bolted. You know, that's probably not going to be any good for those ones that are throwing off the seeds. Mostly I find that happens with the red onions. Some of them at the back, the white onions in this bed, have done really, really well. I do have another couple of onion beds, which I'll show you in a second. Not too sure what happened with this bed, but as you can see, the soil in here compared to some of our other beds, again, it's not fantastic. So more amendments will be done on these beds this year. But for now, once we've got that strawberry bed weeded and covered, we'll be in here taking all of the ones out that have bolted. If they're too far gone, then they'll be composted. If they're not too far gone, they'll be chopped up and frozen or used straight away as fresh. That will free this bed up, and then we will be having the purple sprouting broccoli that's ready to go in now. That'll be going in here, along with a few other of the winter brassicas. Now, my other onion beds and garlic beds, the garlic this year, I'll come to that in a second. What a strange year. Anyway, this is another onion bed which I'm absolutely thrilled to bits with. There's one or two that you can see that have bolted, but the reason for that is because you can see it's growing right next to each other and competing, so it's thrown off a seed. It's thrown off a shoot. It's not because it's not too happy. But these onions, I'm really, really proud. These are looking really nice size. Let's go over here. Yeah, really good sized onions, and hopefully that'll do well towards the winter pantry. Come to that in a minute. Another onion bed, which this up until recently had that other hedge here that I mentioned to you. So you can see the onions along the edge here are a lot smaller than the ones over here, because this hedge, the hedge along the edge, had been, you know, taking all of the moisture, the sun, creating a shadow, etc. And obviously wasn't letting any warmth in to these little onions along the edge. So hopefully they will still come good now that we've taken that out. But again, lots here for the winter pantry. We go through tons and tons and tons of onions. So fingers crossed I've got enough for this year. You know, if not, we'll just grow more next year. Now, this bed, okay, so this is garlic. I've never had a problem with garlic before, but this year, what a strange year. So the early purple, which is the third row long, is actually looking quite good. There's some decent size on them. I was having a little bit of a look. So there is some decent size bulbs in there. But this is one that I took out and I was like, what on earth has happened there? There's just some strange things happening. I've never seen garlic like do this before. It's like a I don't know, really spindly and just strange. However, this variety here, which I can never remember how you say, Albigensian, is that how you pronounce it? That appears to be doing really well. So we'll have a look at that when we have the garlic harvest. And then again, we will have winter brassicas going in this bed as well. They will be coming out quite soon, to be quite honest with you. I've already taken the ones out of the polytunnel just the other day. So getting your bearings again, we're now walked all the way down to the other end of the plot. So right at the other end there is the shed, the Wendy house. That's where we've extended into. The original plot ended just here where that A-frame is there. And we've pretty much doubled it in terms of size, and we're absolutely thrilled with how that's worked out. That space just wasn't getting utilised for anything that was adding value in terms of feeding us as a family from a self-sufficiency point of view. So really, really pleased. We went down the raised bed route. I was in two minds what to do because I'm an avid watcher of Charles Dowding. I love the no-dig approach. We have tried that multiple times here. Unfortunately, due to our location, due to the time limits that we've got and things like that as well, we're right in the middle of the countryside where when the farmers are harvesting, all of the weed seeds are blowing in, etc., etc. It's a constant battle. And although no dig is, I get it, I completely get it, and it has worked on certain beds, it's not a solution for us and on all of our beds here. So we did consider doing in-ground gardening at the other end there, but we went for the raised beds in the end. It was almost like fate because it was at the same time that Stephen found all of this free wood. I mean, that's just not a thing these days, is it? The cost of timber is ridiculous. But got all of this free wood that a lady was advertising on Marketplace. She just needed it taken. And so we obviously were there, got that taken, and we couldn't believe our luck. I mean, it was literally hundreds of pounds worth of, to her, waste wood. To us, you know, it was raised beds, we've created fences, we've done absolutely all sorts with it. So that was a really good find. And then we had to put in the cost, obviously, to fill them. So we've used as much of our animal bedding as possible. Everything else that we could find that we could use to fill them, we have. In addition, we then obviously did have to buy the shop bought compost as well. But hopefully that's just a one-off where we're not going to be having to do that anymore, because we'll be using our animal bedding when that's rotten down. Every year we use that to put on top just to feed a little bit, as I say, and then we use our own compost for where the plants are going to go in, like I mentioned before. So absolutely thrilled with how this has worked out. And we can't leave this area without giving a nod to the Jerusalem artichokes. So I saw years ago somebody talking about Jerusalem artichokes, and I thought, oh, that's a great idea. Let's put them in the corner of this bed. She did say they come with a warning, they'll take over. I thought, oh, that can't be a bad thing. Trust me, if you're going to grow Jerusalem artichokes, put them in a container, a really large container, because they are just, we've tried to take these out and to kill them off, I kid you not, multiple times. Not because we don't like them, we do actually like them, but they just take over. They grow, I mean, now they're what, at least 5 foot high, they grow to 8 foot and beyond. I kid you not. And then when the winds come and the storms, they fall over, they're on the path, they're just a nightmare. However, we have learned to embrace them because we're not going to win that battle, so we're just going to eat them. So grow all you like, and then we're going to eat you. So that's our kind of plan B crop should everything else fail. So back to the bed that we kind of started on, where we've got the sweet peas growing at the back, some brassicas. Let's see how many make it. Do come back for the next kitchen garden tour and see how they're doing or what I've had to replace. I have sown a lot of my winter brassicas, which, as I said on a different video, if these don't make it, I'll replace lots of winter brassicas in this bed as well. We need to make sure we've got food for the winter. Yes, we can go to the supermarket, but who wants to be doing that when you can grow your own? And given the year that we've had with the wind and the rain, I can imagine that there'll be shortages on certain food. Don't get me wrong, there'll be food for everybody. I don't mean anything like that. But if we can be reliant on ourselves, we're going to be reliant on ourselves. So that's exactly where we're at. And we want to grow as much as we can to have as much on the pantry shelves for this winter. And that's another reason why I've put some more squash, courgettes, blue Hubbard squash. These two are in the containers. I think I'm going to get some more in. I had a couple of spare, which I'm going to nab and get those back in, put those in the ground, because obviously the slugs have demolished some other ones. But look at this. A shadow means the sun is out. The sun is out, all is happy. Right, so let's head back down to the path through the original gate. And then there's one more area that we haven't seen, which is this bed here, because we came in through the next to the greenhouse and went this way. But here we've got on each post of this frame that we've got above us, we've got nasturtiums and cucumbers. I've got one here as well, and then on each post all the way down, just trying to make more use of the space. These are brambles. We put those in. I'm thinking that it'd be nice to grow some native brambles. They, for whatever reason, you know, they grow in the wild like wildfire, but here they don't seem to thrive too well. If we go around the back, this is to my shed, which I'm no longer embarrassed to show you because I had a big tidy out the other day. This is the working bench where there's lots of things that I need to get to. Here I purchased some courgette plants when I had a real panic on that I wasn't going to get any squash. I'm starting to panic again now, to be quite honest with you. So when all my squash germinated on the second attempt, I thought, oh, I'm not going to worry too much about these. I'll just put these in pots. I was going to put these in the ground. And I thought, no, I'll keep them now and get them in pots because obviously the squash is doing okay. Starting to worry a little bit now. Anyway, some hanging baskets that I rescued. This one's got a strawberry in it, but also a load of weeds. So this is the working bench, basically, where things come to be tended to be either composted, to be weeded, to be potted on, whatever it might be. And then in the shed, we've literally got work in progress at the moment. It might look messy, but trust me, this is organised and this is not messy for me. So that's my little seat. It's not a napping chair. It's not comfortable enough to have a nap in, but it's nice to be able to sit down and take the load off for a minute. And then as you go out here, this was the bed that we missed next to the clematis where I started the video. We've got broad beans in this bed, much to the kids' dismay. They can't stand broad beans, but I love them. And then we've also got carrots. I did see on a recent video that this bed needs weeding. It still hasn't been done because that video was only a couple of nights ago. So I will get to that so that the carrots don't have too much competition. We've also got some Swiss chards in here as well. Tomatoes along the edges, spinach next to the broad beans. These are the super aquadulce, is that how you pronounce it, broad beans? You get kind of an extra couple than the Claudia. You get an extra couple of beans per pod than the Claudia in these ones. And then finally, we go past the tree lilies. This is their first year. Grew these from bulbs. I got the bulbs over Christmas, and I've got 2 of them in here that are doing really well. Gave a couple away. I'm looking forward to these coming out. And then here are a couple of little salad palette collar beds that Stephen made, coming on really well. Lemon verbena, spring onions and radishes, an outdoor tomato, and then some more salady bits and pieces. This was a cucumber that I was trying to grow outside, and it's just been eaten at the stem. It's just rotten. So whether that's from damp or from those blooming slugs and snails, I'll never know. And then we've got some clary sage, pineapple sage, and in here, as of this weekend, we've got the tomatoes that have been put in. There's 6 in each row. And then fingers crossed these will give us a good crop of tomatoes this year. There's one nasturtium that was self-seeded, and that's all we're going to be growing in the polytunnel this year. In previous years, I have completely overcrowded it and not stayed on top of it. And I promised myself I'm not going to do that this year, but I'm really pleased with how these are looking, because these were the tomatoes that were a little bit unloved in the greenhouse and starting to yellow ever so slightly. But hopefully they'll come on really well in here now. So speaking of the greenhouse, I'm conscious that I've been talking for so long, but I'm really excited to be able to finally start showing you background again now that we've got all of the work done, so to speak. I didn't show you the cold frames. Let me show you briefly those. I did show you the peppers in one, but the plan for those If you can see, that one's open. This one hasn't got a hinge on it at the moment, hasn't got anything to hold it open at the moment. I've taken all the brassicas that are in that fire pit bed, were all in here. Whilst it was open, it wasn't being used as a cold frame for the heat or anything like that. But the plan for those is all of the next lot of seedlings will go in there, and then hopefully they'll be protected, but we'll just have to keep an eye on them for slugs and things. Anyway, let's finish off in the greenhouse. So first up, this is the purple sprout and broccoli that I mentioned is going in where those onions are coming out. We've got a kind of a cucumber corner going on here, and this is a perennial kale cutting that needs potting on. And we've also got some herbs that we're drying. Rosemary doesn't look very appealing. Rosemary and sage have just been put up there just to dry because it's nice and hot and dry and crisp in the greenhouse. And then along the side here, I've got more tomatoes, lots of different varieties. We've got Gardener's Delight, we've got Rose to Burn, Amish Paste, and then 4 tomatillos just in front of the tomatoes. They're not staying there forever. They've just been checked over and watered and things in that position. So they need a final resting place, but it probably will be in these pots. And then to the side here, a recent development, I've moved all of these peppers onto this shelf here, which had the tomatoes that are now in the greenhouse on. So now there's more space for the peppers. These are coming along fantastically. So we've got Anaheims, we've got Calbys, which are an early sweet, Californian Wonders, jalapenos, serranos, a few different types. But hopefully, I mean, these, you know, compared to the ones outside that you saw earlier, the peppers outside, you know, there's no competition. Growing peppers indoors is definitely what I need to do here. These guys are coming on fantastically all the way along. And then at the back in the greenhouse here, we've got 3 different varieties of tomatoes. We've got a Bloody Butcher variety. We've got the Rose to Burn at the back and the Amish Paste here as well, which are right next to these blueberries that are coming along amazingly. We've got 3 different pots of blueberries that'll come at different times here. But I'm thrilled with how this has worked out. We put these beds in, which weren't in originally for this greenhouse. Everything was in pots, but the fact that these beds are in now has just made things so much easier. They're working out fantastically. So really thrilled with that as well. And then finally here, this is the little propagator that Stephen put together, which kind of acts as somewhere for me to do a little bit of work when I need to get some seeds in and things, or when I need to do some watering. These guys are desperately waiting to be potted on. These Swiss chard are going to go straight into the ground. These strombolis will go into the bigger containerised pots, and then I'll grow those on a little bit before I get them into the ground. And then I've got another few, thankfully, spare. What have I got here? Oh, they're more courgettes, but at least I've got some spare. I've had to come outside because the sun is so low that I couldn't see you properly when I was looking, turn around in the greenhouse. Well, I don't know if I've missed anything out. I possibly and probably have, but I hope that you can get your bearings and understand when I'm doing the little bits of updates on the vlogs and things like that, where everything is. So right next to the greenhouse, we've got the first update that we did to the garden, next to the original plot, which is over here, and then the extension with the Wendy house and things like that over there. We have grafted so hard to be able to get this done. I hope this comes across as nothing other than us being super proud of what we've achieved, and to be able to share what we're going to be doing here in the future is something that we've been looking forward to for absolutely ages. So if you're interested in following our journey and seeing how we realise our plan of becoming self-sufficient gardeners and feeding our family from our garden, then please do consider subscribing, and I will see you when I see you, be it on the next kitchen garden tour or on the next video that we put out on the channel. But for now, thank you for being here on this amazing night on our June kitchen garden tour on the week of the summer solstice.